Hello, good evening, welcome back. Our story begins more than 200,000 years ago, deep in the heart of Africa. Here, the first modern humans, Homo sapiens, walked the earth. Life was fragile. These early people lived as hunters and gatherers, moving with the seasons, following herds of animals, and searching for edible plants. Fire gave them warmth and protection. Stone tools gave them strength. But their greatest weapon was something invisible: their intelligence and their ability to work together. Around campfires, they told stories. With language, they planned hunts and passed down knowledge. Slowly, generation after generation, they began to spread. Some crossed the hot Sahara Desert when it was still green with rivers. Others followed the coastlines of the Indian Ocean, learning to fish and sail. Brave bands pushed into Europe and Asia, facing ice ages and fierce predators. By 10,000 BCE, humans had reached almost every corner of the earth, from the frozen tundra of Siberia to the distant islands of the Pacific. But something extraordinary happened around this time: the Neolithic Revolution. Instead of wandering endlessly, people discovered they could plant seeds and harvest crops. They domesticated animals: sheep, goats, cows, and horses. Farming created surpluses of food, and with that, the first villages appeared. Villages grew into towns, towns grew into cities, and with cities came leaders, armies, temples, and writing. The first sparks of civilization had begun. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was building. Around 5,000 years ago, great rivers gave birth to the first civilizations. In Mesopotamia, the land between rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, provided fertile soil. Here, the Sumerians built the world's first cities: Ur, Uruk, Babylon. They invented writing, cuneiform, pressed into clay tablets. They built towering ziggurats, worshipped many gods, and recorded laws like the famous Code of Hammurabi. Mesopotamia gave us the blueprint of urban life. Along the Nile River, another civilization flourished: ancient Egypt. Every year, the Nile flooded, leaving rich black soil for farming. Pharaohs ruled as god-kings. They built massive pyramids and temples, monuments that still stand after 4,000 years. Egyptian scribes recorded their history in hieroglyphics, and their culture shaped ideas of art, religion, and the afterlife. Farther east, along the Indus River, a mysterious civilization rose: Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. With advanced city planning, straight streets, drainage systems, and even indoor plumbing, they were centuries ahead of their time. Though their writing remains undeciphered, their legacy of urban design remains. In China, along the Yellow River, the first dynasties appeared. The Shang dynasty built walled cities, bronze weapons, and early writing on oracle bones. Later, the Zhou dynasty introduced the Mandate of Heaven, the belief that rulers governed with divine approval, a concept that shaped Chinese politics for centuries. Meanwhile, across the oceans, civilizations also began. In the Americas, the Olmec carved giant stone heads and developed early calendars. In Africa, powerful kingdoms formed along trade routes, mixing cultures and ideas. Everywhere, humans were experimenting with how to live together, how to rule, and how to worship. These early civilizations gave us writing, laws, monumental architecture, and trade networks that connected distant lands. Humanity was no longer just surviving in villages. It was building worlds. As civilizations grew, so did ambition. Small kingdoms became mighty empires, and history entered an age of conquest. In the Middle East, the Persian Empire rose under Cyrus the Great. His empire stretched from the Mediterranean to India. Unlike many conquerors, Cyrus allowed people to keep their customs and religions. The Persians built roads, postal systems, and a mighty army of immortals. But to the west, another power was rising: the Greeks. Small city-states like Athens and Sparta competed fiercely, yet together they resisted the Persian invasions during the Greco-Persian Wars. Athens gave the world democracy, philosophy, and drama. Thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle questioned everything from politics to the meaning of life. Sparta gave us the legend of military discipline. Soon after, a young king from Macedonia, Alexander the Great, launched one of history's most daring campaigns. In just a decade, he conquered Persia, Egypt, and marched all the way to India. Though he died young, his empire spread Greek culture across continents, the era of Hellenism. To the west, another empire was rising, Rome. What began as a small city grew into the Roman Republic with senators, laws, and citizen armies. Rome conquered the Mediterranean, defeating rivals like Carthage in the Punic Wars. But ambition turned republic into empire. Under emperors like Augustus and Trajan, Rome controlled vast lands, built roads, aqueducts, and arenas like the Colosseum. Roman law, language, and engineering shaped the Western world for centuries. In the east, the Han dynasty of China was flourishing at the same time. The Han expanded territory, invented paper, and opened the Silk Road, linking China to Rome with trade in silk, spices, and ideas. Meanwhile, in the Americas, great civilizations emerged. The Maya built step pyramids and complex calendars. The Nazca drew mysterious lines in the desert. The Moche crafted gold and pottery with incredible skill. Across Africa, kingdoms like Nubia and Axum thrived, trading gold, ivory, and ideas with the wider world. The age of empires was an age of innovation, but also of blood. Wars, slavery, and conquest spread alongside culture and trade. Empires rose and empires fell, but each left behind pieces of a shared human story. By the 1st century CE, the ancient world was connected as never before. Trade routes spanned continents, religions spread, and cultures blended. Humanity was no longer divided into isolated civilizations. It was becoming a truly global story. By the first centuries of the Common Era, empires ruled vast lands, but something even more powerful than kings and armies began to shape humanity: faith. Across the world, new religions and philosophies spread, offering hope, order, and meaning. In India, Hinduism grew, with its sacred texts, the Vedas and Upanishads, describing the cycle of life, karma, and dharma. Out of India also came Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, who taught that suffering could be ended through compassion, mindfulness, and the Eightfold Path. In China, thinkers shaped society with philosophy. Confucius taught about harmony, family loyalty, and respect for authority. Taoism celebrated balance with nature. Together, these ideas guided Chinese rulers and everyday life for centuries. In the Middle East, a new faith was born in a small Roman province: Christianity. Jesus of Nazareth preached love, forgiveness, and equality before God. Though executed by Rome, his followers spread his teachings. Over time, Christianity grew, and by the 4th century it became the official religion of the Roman Empire. From then on, it shaped Europe for millennia. In the 7th century, another great faith emerged: Islam. The Prophet Muhammad in Mecca and Medina preached the oneness of God, Allah, and a message of justice, charity, and community. Within a century, Islam spread rapidly across the Middle East, North Africa, Spain, and Central Asia. Great cities like Baghdad and Cordoba became centers of learning, preserving ancient knowledge and advancing science, medicine, and mathematics. Meanwhile, in the Americas, faith also flourished. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca developed complex religious systems, worshiping sun gods, moon gods, and ancestors. In Africa, spiritual traditions blended with trade and storytelling, creating rich cultural tapestries that guided daily life. The Age of Faith was not just about belief. It was about building temples, mosques, cathedrals, and monasteries. It was about conflict, too: holy wars, crusades, and schisms. But more than anything, faith gave people a shared identity and a vision of something greater than themselves. After the fall of Rome in the 5th century, Europe entered what is often called the Middle Ages. Castles, knights, and kings dominated. Feudalism tied peasants to land, nobles to lords, and all to the authority of the church. Life was hard, but also filled with tradition and ritual. Yet Europe was not isolated. To the east, the Byzantine Empire carried on Rome's legacy, blending Greek, Roman, and Christian traditions. Its capital, Constantinople, was a shining jewel of trade and culture. Farther east, the Islamic Golden Age flourished. Scholars in Baghdad's House of Wisdom translated Greek philosophy, advanced algebra, invented hospitals, and charted the stars. Cities like Damascus, Cairo, and Cordoba became centers of learning, light, and art. In Africa, great kingdoms thrived. Ghana, Mali, and Songhai controlled the gold and salt trade. The legendary ruler Mansa Musa of Mali was so wealthy that his pilgrimage to Mecca shook the economies of entire regions. In East Africa, trading ports like Kilwa and Zanzibar connected Africa to Arabia, India, and China. Across Asia, mighty dynasties ruled. In China, the Tang and Song dynasties oversaw advances in printing, gunpowder, and navigation. In Japan, the age of the samurai began, with warriors bound by honor and loyalty. But perhaps the most dramatic force of the Middle Ages came from the steppes of Central Asia, the Mongols. Under Genghis Khan, they built the largest land empire in history, stretching from China to Europe. Brutal in war, yet tolerant of cultures and religions, the Mongols opened trade routes across Eurasia, the famous Silk Road, allowing goods, ideas, and even diseases to spread. Indeed, not all was progress. In the 14th century, the Black Death swept across Europe and Asia, killing tens of millions. It shook societies to their core, changing economies and faith forever. Still, out of the chaos came renewal. In Italy, cities like Florence sparked the Renaissance, a rebirth of art, science, and humanism, inspired by ancient Greece and Rome. Painters like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, thinkers like Machiavelli, and scientists like Copernicus changed the way people saw the world, and themselves. The Middle Ages ended not with decline but with transformation. The world was ready for a new age, one of exploration, science, and discovery. The 15th and 16th centuries opened a new chapter, the Age of Discovery. Europe, energized by the Renaissance and driven by the search for trade routes, set sail across the seas. The Portuguese, under explorers like Vasco da Gama, rounded Africa to reach India. The Spanish, led by Christopher Columbus, crossed the Atlantic in 1492, reaching the Americas, though believing it was Asia. Soon after, Magellan's expedition circumnavigated the globe, proving the world was vast and connected. These voyages were more than exploration. They were conquest. The Aztec and Inca empires fell to Spanish conquistadors like Cortés and Pizarro, bringing unimaginable riches to Europe, but devastation to native peoples. Disease, carried unknowingly by Europeans, wiped out millions. This Columbian exchange changed the world. Horses, wheat, and steel arrived in the Americas. Potatoes, tomatoes, and corn traveled to Europe, Africa, and Asia. The global diet was transformed forever. But alongside trade came darker forces. The transatlantic slave trade began, forcing millions of Africans into brutal lives on plantations in the Americas. The wealth of Europe grew, but at a terrible human cost. Meanwhile, in Asia, great empires flourished. The Ottoman Empire dominated the Middle East. The Mughals in India built wonders like the Taj Mahal. In China, the Ming Dynasty sent giant treasure ships under Zheng He, exploring the Indian Ocean decades before Columbus. The Age of Discovery was also an age of ideas. The printing press spread books and knowledge faster than ever before. Scientists like Galileo and Kepler looked to the stars, challenging old beliefs. Martin Luther's Reformation shook the Catholic Church, sparking wars of religion but also paving the way for freedom of thought. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the world was connected as never before. Empires spanned oceans, trade flowed across continents, and ideas of liberty, reason, and progress began to stir. Humanity was on the edge of revolutions in politics, in industry, and in thought. The modern world was about to be born. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the world had changed dramatically. Oceans were crossed, continents connected, and knowledge spread faster than ever. But with progress came unrest. People began to ask new questions about power, rights, and freedom. In England, struggles between monarchy and parliament reshaped government. Thinkers like John Locke wrote about natural rights, life, liberty, and property, planting the seeds of modern democracy. Across the Atlantic in 1776, 13 colonies declared independence from the mighty British Empire. The American Revolution was born. Ordinary farmers and citizens, led by figures like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, fought for liberty. Against the odds, they won, and a new nation, the United States of America, emerged, founded on ideals that would inspire the world. Not long after, in 1789, revolution exploded in France. The storming of the Bastille became a symbol of freedom as peasants and citizens rose against kings and nobles. The French Revolution was fierce, filled with hope and terror. It gave the world the cry, liberty, equality, fraternity. Revolution spread further. Across Latin America, leaders like Simón Bolívar fought for independence from Spanish rule, dreaming of free republics. But revolution wasn't only about politics, it was about industry too. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Industrial Revolution transformed societies. Steam engines powered factories, trains, and ships. Cities grew rapidly. Millions left farms to work in factories. Wealth increased, but so did inequality, child labor, and pollution. At the same time, science advanced. Isaac Newton had revealed the laws of motion. Charles Darwin later explained evolution. Inventors created the telegraph, the light bulb, and eventually the telephone. Humanity was accelerating into a new age. Yet with change came struggle. Workers organized for rights. Women demanded equality and the vote. Slavery, long a stain on humanity, was challenged and abolished in many nations. The Age of Revolution was a time of energy, hope, and upheaval. It reshaped governments, economies, and societies. It lit the fuse for the modern world. But greater storms were yet to come.